Welcome back. This is day 7 of the Run It Up challenge. We're doing it on DraftKings.com. It is Friday, December 19th. I want to just quickly go over last night's games, talk about one little topic that came up on Twitter, and then I will pause it and I'll come back to do tonight's slate. So it is currently 10 minutes to 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So a lot of research left to be done today, but I just want to talk about last night real quick. Here's last night's lineup. We put up a respectable 251 points, which on any given night, that's a pretty good score, 5 times your salary cap. Also note that I only spent 49,000 last night, which is a tactic that I like to use sometimes on small slates to be a little bit of a contrarian. So when there's only so many options and everybody wants to spend 50,000 or as close to it as possible, you can end up with more of the same players than usual. So what I sometimes like to do is leave some money on the table, whether it be 1,000 or even 2,000 I've done before, to be a little contrarian, because that then messes, I don't want to say messes up your players, but changes up your players enough to be different. So a lot of the studs had big nights last night. Steph Curry went crazy. We had him. Anthony Davis had a big night. Russell Westbrook had a big night. We did not have either of those two guys, but we did have a solid team nonetheless. So Curry goes for 66 points. Tim Hardaway, who was only 5,400, puts up a 36 spot. So both of those guys hitting 6 times value. Draymond Green, 44 points. I think he was 7,500. Excuse me. So he hits basically 6 times value or close to it. This news that Amari Stoudemire was going to start earlier in the day, he was listed as out for rest, and I guess they decided against it since they were so depleted last night with with Carmelo being out, that Stoudemire did actually play. Now, I was away from the computer. This is one of the toughest parts about the NBA, is you've got to basically be around to swap, to be ready when these late, game time decisions happen in the NBA. So I missed it. We rolled with Quincy Acey, who was, obviously we like much more if Amari doesn't play. He was only 3,000, so he scored 11 points, which is almost 4 times value. He's only 7 points off of 6 times value, so I don't think it killed us, but obviously I would not have played him had I been able to swap him out. Joakim Noah and Patrick Beverley actually were a little disappointing. Let's see here. So at 7,100 and 5,500, I guess Beverley was pretty good, but Noah hurt a little bit, and he only scored 4 points. He's kind of like who am I thinking of? The guy in LA, DeAndre Jordan, who sorry, it's a little early for me still. DeAndre Jordan, who is going to get you double figure rebounds every single night, and it's the points that are really just going to be the gravy on top. So he only scores 4 points, so not much gravy on top, and finishes at 26. Monte Eunice, not great. I think he was 5,500 as well or something like that. Yeah, 5,500. He only puts up 16 points. And then Iggy, who has been surprisingly consistent lately. If you look at his game logs, over the last 4 games now, four pretty decent nights. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. But I want to get to something that came up on Twitter that I saw that I really wanted to talk about. And someone tweeted at me just very simply, Westbrook not worth it? Question mark. And the answer is yes, he's worth it. He's a great player, and he's basically guaranteed for your 50 points every single night. He's an absolute stud. But with this small slate, I wanted to be different. So when there's only 4 games, and I was thinking that everyone was going to have Curry and Westbrook. Okay, so that was my thought process, that everyone is going to stack Curry and Westbrook. Now, in hindsight, that would have been really great. So that leaves us with, if we don't want to do that, that leaves us with 2 options. So we can either start 2 studs and work around that salary-wise. We can start 1 stud and work a little better around that, have more salary to play with. Or we can start 3 studs and then go with a bunch of very minimum priced or low priced players. So we went with option number 1, which was, or option number 2, which would be play 1 stud, who I took the cheapest of, Steph Curry, and then had some money to spend around him. So that is the first part of it. That's not nearly the most not nearly the most interesting part of this. The most interesting part was if we could have been, and this is something that I've used before, if we could have started 3 big names. So for example, if we could have started Curry, Westbrook, and Harden, or Curry, Westbrook, and Anthony Davis. If we would have started Curry, Westbrook, and Anthony Davis, we would have had a really good night. But we would have been extremely, extremely handcuffed for the other 5 positions as far as what we could have done. And my thought process was there wasn't enough value plays last night to justify starting those 3 guys. So it's something that I considered, but it usually, everything has to come together for you to be able to start 3 big names on a small slate and then fill it in with very minimum priced or low priced guys. So for example, I think I've done this before where there was only 3 or 4 games on the schedule, but one of them was the Spurs on the second night of a back-to-back. So I was able to start. So for example, let's just say last night the Spurs played. It was the second night of a back-to-back. We want to put Curry, Westbrook, and Anthony Davis in, but now we know that Duncan's going to rest, and we know that Manu's going to rest. And I could have plugged in guys like Bonner. I could have plugged in Gallinelli. I could have plugged in Corey Joseph, his price is up now, but you get the idea. And then if there was a couple of injuries, or like Amari was sitting out and we could have got better value for Quincy AC, that would have been much more helpful. So we would have actually needed some minimum price guys in that lineup. So to go the route of 3 studs in the same lineup, it really needs to be a perfect storm coming together of injuries, rest, and value plays to make it happen. And last night I didn't think it was going to be able to happen. So we went with 1. I took the cheapest, which was Steph Curry. He had an awesome night, and we just kind of whiffed on the other guys. And with a small slate, I shouldn't say we whiffed. We scored 251 points. That's good on any night. But when there's only 4 games going on, and Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis do have the night that they have, it kind of puts us behind the 8 ball to make up those points. So all in all, good night. We only had the 1 entry into this GPP, so we only dropped $2. So I think we're down to something like 96 for the bankroll. But we'll get back at it tonight. And yeah, that was just something I really wanted to talk about, because it came up on Twitter, and I thought I could elaborate a little better on it than 140 characters. So there it is. I am going to pause, and I will talk to you later. To start putting some lineups together for tonight. So we are looking at a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 game slate tonight. I've had a couple hours to go through and check everything out. Get excited for tonight, figure out what I'm going to do in these matchups, and there's a couple of things that I really want to touch on this slate. So let's get to it. First of all, let's check out the odds for tonight, and there really is only one game that I would consider a potential blowout, which would be the Brooklyn-Cleveland game. Cleveland is an 11.5-point favorite at home, so that's the one that stands out as possibly the game to avoid on tonight's schedule. I'm just looking through here and seeing if there's anything else. Most of them are all pretty reasonable. Looking at the totals, the Clippers and Denver game, it has a 214-point line, and the Minnesota-Boston game is at 210.5. I can't wait for this one. Oklahoma City, LA, 208. So really is that only 3 games over 200? Yeah, it looks like it. So we're actually gonna get plenty of players in from those games. Just as a coincidence, I've looked at this before, but obviously not making all my decisions based on the odds. But we are gonna have some players from those games. So let's get down to it. A lot has happened today. I'm gonna pull up on my other screen here. I'm gonna pull up some of the lineups just so I can take a peek. But with Rajon Rondo being traded last night, he is unavailable for the Celtics tonight. So that's a lot of minutes and a lot of production that is not that is someone else is going to have to pick up the slack for in Boston. So, um, we will talk about those players. Corey Brewer just got traded from Minnesota. I think that was official as of just this hour. So there's going to be some implications there. Lance Stevenson has been ruled out for tonight. Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard still out tonight. Chris Bosh still out tonight. Derrick Rose did not travel with the team. He's out tonight. So all big implications around the league. So let's get to it. And I want to, as usual, start with my value plays. Guys that I think can just go 5, 6, 7, 8 times their value, with really good opportunity and really good prices. And with Lance Stevenson being out, Gary Neal has really stepped up. So he gets here it is. The last two games where he's played 27 and 29 minutes, he's gone for 22 points and 21 points. And if you scroll down in his game log, you can basically see that when he gets a decent number of minutes, over 20, over 25, he puts up enough points for you. He's only priced at 3,700. So if he scored 24 fantasy points, 20 fantasy points, we'd be very happy. Great matchup against the Sixers. Obviously, I'm a Sixers fan. It hurts me to say, but it's true. Players usually play above their averages in these games. Into the shooting guard position, and we're off to a good start. Now there's someone else affected by a trade today who we've played before. So if you've followed this, we've played him I think a couple times in the last few days, and it's SHABAZZ Muhammad, who now that he's been playing great, number one, and now that Corey Brewer is out, I think there's even more minutes for him. It was this past week where the news was mostly, okay, SHABAZZ Muhammad is taking over the minutes from Corey Brewer. Corey Brewer is potentially going to get traded, and now he's been traded. So this is going to be the first game without him, and I think SHABAZZ gets a big-time boost here. I think Wiggins does too. We can check the price on Wiggins. He's 5,500. I prefer SHABAZZ just because he's 1,000 less, and he's been really, really good lately. So let's check out these game logs. So for only 4,500, you got to remember, he's put up 32, 40, 24, 26. Those are the last four where he's been pretty decent in the last 10, but really good lately. I think I read something like his usage rate is 35% in the last 7 games. So he's just involved in the offense, and I think it's only more so now that Corey Brewer is off the team. So I really like SHABAZZ Muhammad for a big night. I'm hoping that since the news came out, let's see, 3.5 hours before tip-off, that he will not be as highly owned as he should be. And, I think there's also a lot of other plays that people could go that route. So I'm hoping that Muhammad is under-owned, and I think he's underpriced. He should be in for a good night tonight. Okay, let's continue. I'm just peeking at the injuries again. So let's talk Rajon Rondo being no longer with the Boston Celtics, and who does that help? It's a great question, and usually it takes a little bit of time to find out, but we don't have that luxury in daily fantasy. We want to jump on players before their price goes up, before we find out their new role. So I'm usually pretty cautious on this, but I've got to have some exposure to that Celtics situation tonight. Now, Marcus Smart on Twitter and around the internet is being highly touted tonight as just kind of stepping in and taking over for Rajon Rondo, which in the one game that he played 35 minutes, he had a hell of a game. So it's not unrealistic to think, but he is questionable for tonight. He, I believe, practiced fully yesterday, but it has not been determined on whether or not he is going to play tonight. So he's a little risky. There's always concern that if he plays, how much does he play? I read somebody else said Evan Turner is going to get the boost for Boston tonight. He's the one who's going to benefit the most. I don't know. I don't really trust that. The guy that I want is a guy that has already been productive for the team, and it's Jeff Green. So Jeff Green has already been productive for the Celtics. I mean, look at these lines: 22, 21, 39, 20, 32. We're looking for 30 points out of him. If he scores 36, we love it. If he scores any higher than that, it's all gravy, baby. So I think he has the opportunity to really be more of a focal point in this offense with Rondo gone, and he's the one that I trust the most compared to any of these other guys. So I'm going to plug in Jeff Green into my forward position. Okay, moving right along, there is another option, value option that I think we have to take a peek at, and it's Thomas Robinson. So he has now been starting for Portland with Lopez out and came in getting his minutes reduced. Thomas Robinson started and played 29 minutes 2 nights ago, which he went nuts and he had 40 points. Do not expect another 40 points, but we don't need it from Thomas Robinson. We need, if he gets 15, great. If he gets 18, awesome. If he's anything over 20, he's killing it. So for 3,000 and the opportunity, he's hard to pass up. I do not expect him to score 40 fantasy points tonight. I think he comes down to earth, but if he comes down to earth and he scores us 15, I'm very happy. So I'm pleased to plug him in. I think he's safe. And he has 40-point upside. Don't expect it, but if he scored 25, that'd be great. So we'll plug him right in there. So now we've got 3 pretty low-priced options. We can start spending money, and the guy that I cannot miss out on tonight, and he's the highest priced player on the board, is Russell Westbrook. So let's click on Kevin Durant, and yep, this is the latest I read too. He is a game time decision for tonight. If Kevin Durant is out, Russell Westbrook gets basically the best matchup we could ever ask for. The Lakers, I believe, have given up more fantasy points to opposing point guards than any team in the league. The Lakers, there's really no blowout fear here. I think the Lakers are something like 6.5 point underdogs. So of course, there's a chance that the Lakers get blown out like any night, but they're not double digit underdogs. So I'm not too concerned about a blowout. And if Kevin Durant doesn't play, Russell Westbrook will be the man in what is basically the best matchup you could ever ask for. So this is just phenomenal. I do have, I guess, a knock against him would be the fact that it's the second night of a back-to-back. But come on, this guy's unbelievable. 50 or more points in his last 4. You know what he did without KD when he first came back. He's just an absolute stud. Got to get Russell Westbrook in the lineup. I can't pass up on him. Now, if Durant does play, I'll probably pivot off of him. So, he can be great any night. You know what? I'll ride with Westbrook either way about 90% of the time. I don't know what KD is going to do, but just absolutely love him if Durant is out. So he's the guy that I'm willing to pay up for. And you know me, I'm not always willing to pay up for these guys. So tonight's the night. Okay, let's round out the the solid positions that we have to fill here. So let's look for a center. Vucevic could be a good play, but something about it I don't like it tonight. Al Jefferson against Philly is fine. Chicago is a pretty slow pace and plays good defense, so I'll probably avoid Gasol tonight. The guy that I'm looking at is DeAndre Jordan, who, again, I love because he's gonna rip boards. He's a guaranteed double-digit rebound machine. The Nuggets are in the bottom 5 in, I guess I should say the top 5 in fantasy points allowed to centers, as in only a handful of teams give up more points to opposing centers. He's just a really good play tonight. He's only 8,200. So, you're looking at double-digit rebounds. If he gets you double-digit points, we're in serious, serious business. So, great matchup with DeAndre Jordan. And that's also one of the games that is, so the OKC game, the LA game, those are two of the high totals. What was the third one that was over 200? Clippers, Lakers, and Boston, Minnesota. So we've got, so far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of our 6 guys that we have in the lineup are from those high total games. So I told you we would get our touchies in there. All right. This one jumped out at me, and this is one that I'm actually kind of worried about, but I'm going to chase points and go back to the well with Jimmy Butler because Derrick Rose is out. Butler has been absolutely insane when Derrick Rose has been out. Basically the entire offense runs through him. He's a phenomenal player. He's just having an unbelievable breakout season. But let's look at this closely. I hate chasing points, and I usually hate taking guys that had huge nights the night before because he's going to be highly owned. But 62 points last night, 62 fantasy points. He was 7,200. His price dropped $400. I don't know if that is a mistake by DraftKings. I don't know what their algorithm's saying. I don't know if they know more than me, but drops $400 tonight. That to me is just unfathomable. We're looking for basically 35 points out of him. He's more than capable of doing it. I'm going to plug him in. Okay, so that leaves us with just 5,900 to go. So we're in this range here. And the guy right off the top here is Robert Covington, who's been great for the Sixers. I'm going to ride this train as long as possible. I didn't like him when his price jumped up here, the big jump, but he played to his price. He hit his value again. And they also haven't played since, Monday, Tuesday? So a well-rested Robert Covington who can shoot the lights out from beyond the three-point arc, I think is a really good play tonight. So I'll plug Covington in, and here is our lineup. This could change just a little bit. I do have concerns about Jimmy Butler, mostly in the fact that it's the second night of a back-to-back. He played something outrageous. He had 45 minutes last night. There is a little bit of concern there. If you really wanted to, you could get rid of Jimmy Butler and plug in Aaron Brooks, who is the lower-priced guy who's going to benefit from Derrick Rose being out, same game. And then you could get off of Covington and spend on Kobe. So there's just a quick pivot. If you didn't like the situation with Jimmy Butler, I imagine that Kobe's going to launch 25 or 30 shots tonight. So, yeah, that would be a nice little pivot, but we'll probably roll with the first option. I'll make sure I tweet it out tonight. It's at the DF Rankings. You can find the write-up on dailyfantasyrankings.com. We've got $96 in the bankroll, so we've got about $9 to spend tonight. So that'll be the $2 GPP and 7 $1 heads up matches. So keep an eye out on Twitter for the final lineup, and I will see you guys tomorrow. See ya.